Chapter 23. Kenny clung to her hand as they walked off the road. There was a 4-foot strip between the road and a field of long grass. The side had been mowed enough that the grass did not go above their shoes. They had made the most of the walk in the dark, only receiving light when a car drove up towards them, its headlights flooding the area before rushing away again. They probably had not been walking all that long, but it had already been a long day, and they were both tired. The bag straps were digging into her shoulders. As much as she wanted to collapse and give up, she had to keep up her son's morale as well. So they sang songs as they walked. The silly tunes did nothing to take away her anxiety. On the outskirts of town, there were shops closed for the night, but ahead of them was a shopping center, still awash in light. The bright neon sign of a fast food restaurant beckoned to them. When they finally reached the restaurant, Alicia dropped her bags into a booth with a sigh. Kenny climbed up on the bench with them, laying his head down and closing his eyes. Alicia dug in her pocket and pulled out the money they had left. There were only a few dollar bills and a small collection of coins. It would have to do. The woman behind the counter seemed to be in her mid-40s. She had brown hair tied up in a bun, with strands of hair falling out after a long shift. She looked tired, but she also looked friendly, and Alicia hoped that she would help them. "Can I have a hamburger kids meal, please?" "Will there be anything else?" The woman's voice had a slight twang to it, more nasally than a southern accent. "Can I have a glass of water, please?" "I have to charge you 10 cents for the cup." Alicia looked at their money again, making sure there was enough before nodding in acceptance. As she handed over her last bit of funds, she asked, "Is there anywhere around where I could access the internet? I need to find a phone number to call someone." "Are you driving through?" the woman asked. "Yes, our car broke down outside of town. I just need to call someone to help us." The woman looked at her and then to her son asleep on the bench. "You don't have a way to call anyone?" "No, he threw my phone out the window." She was so tired it took her a second to realize the truth slipping out of her mouth. I lost my phone while we were driving." But the cover-up sounded fake even to her. "Where is he?" the woman asked. "We left him when we stopped. I took the car with my son, but the car was old and it broke down. We walked the rest of the way into town." Alicia clamped her mouth shut. She was too tired to lie, so she knew she shouldn't speak at all. "There is a hotel up the street. It isn't the prettiest place, but it is clean. My cousin runs the place, and I'm sure they could find you a room." "Thank you," she managed. "But that's all I had." The woman, Jenny by her name tag, nodded like this was to be expected. "If they control the money, they control you. Don't you worry none. My neighbor's son works for a driving company. It's this app thing, but I'm sure I can call him and get him to pick you up. I'll call my cousin, too. He'll put you up for the night and help you get a hold of family tomorrow. You can both use a rest." Alicia didn't answer at first. She wasn't sure what to say. Finally, she managed, "Are you sure it's okay?" "Don't you worry none. I will take care of it. I'll give him a call and sort the whole thing out. My cousin is a good man. He'll help. And my neighbor's kid, well, he isn't the fastest, so I better call him now. It'll give you plenty of time to eat your food while you are waiting for him." Alicia thanked her and walked back to the table with Kenny. She had barely sat down before the same woman brought out the food. Next to the Happy Meal was another burger and fries. Alicia looked up at the woman, her mouth unsteady and words unable to come out. "It's okay. There were extra anyway. Get some food in you. It looks like you need it." Kenny had woken up when the food arrived. He tore into his kids' meal and went straight for the toy. It was a little action figure that stretched when pulled as he shoveled down his food. It seemed like ages since Kenny was able to act like a kid, even if it had only been a few days. She watched as he walked the little figure over the table. He was just 8 years old and was having to deal with assassination attempts and magic powers. She stared at him, trying to figure out how she would give him back his childhood. Then she took a deep breath and pulled herself together. It wasn't long before Kenny had finished his food. Alicia had already decided to split her own meal in half. She put half in front of him and finally began to eat her own. "Thanks," he said. His giant smile was contagious, and she relaxed a little. When the door opened, Alicia looked up, wondering if it was the neighbor's kid who was coming to drive them to the hotel. Instead, there were 2 men dressed in jeans and t-shirts. They both had brown hair and light skin that had seen a lot of sun. They looked enough alike that they were most likely related. Alicia was about to turn her attention back to her food when they looked directly at their table and then did a broad sweep of the restaurant. They started whispering to each other, and then finally went and ordered some food. "Have you used your powers at all?" Alicia asked. "No, not since the car." Could illusions be sensed, or couldn't they? The rules of magic did not make sense. "Are those guys human or elves?" Alicia asked Kenny. He stopped eating, and his face scrunched up in concentration. "They're human." "You're sure?" Kenny nodded his head in assent and went back to eating. Alicia turned and looked at the men. One of the men was on the phone and was looking directly at their table. The other man kept glancing at them and turning away like he was trying not to be noticeable. "Hurry and eat. We need to leave." Alicia gathered up the pieces of her food and began dumping everything onto a tray. Before she could stand up, the woman, Jenny, was over at their table. "He should be here soon. Follow me." She gestured at them and opened her arms wide to herd them out the door. She walked with them to the edge of the parking lot and stopped. "Are they friends of yours?" "I'm not sure," Alicia admitted. "I had a sister that got married very young. She loved her husband, but we all knew that he was good for nothing. She wouldn't listen to us and ran off with him. She came back 5 years later with 2 kids and bruises all over her body." She looked at Kenny. "Make sure you keep him safe." "I will," Alicia said. "Thank you." Alicia looked back into the restaurant and noticed that the men were standing, not even bothering to hide that they were watching. They started to walk outside when a black sedan tore into the parking lot. At first, Alicia thought that Cedar had come to save them again, but she realized her mistake when Jenny went up to the car. "Get in," she told them. While Alicia helped Kenny buckle into his car seat, Jenny whispered to the driver, who couldn't be much older than 20. All Alicia managed to hear was the word, "Go." Then the car sped away. Alicia turned and looked out the back window as they drove out of the parking lot. The men were outside, watching them leave.